Welcome in. First installment of the Monday Conversation. G Lead, Alex Kuhn, Gabe Kuhn with you. We're going to get to week 0. We're going to talk Nebraska. We're going to talk Justin Fields. But first, Alex, I have to tell you about this god-awful movie me and Taylor watched last night. Have you ever seen, Due Date?
Okay.
Have you ever seen Due Date?
I can't say that I have.
Really? No. Robert Downey Jr., none of that? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I've seen that
Imagine a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that has no funny moments to it and is just completely serious the entire way through. They take a cross-country journey for their dead father, and Taylor loved it. It might have been a tearjerker for her. I really don't know how she enjoyed it, but she did. And for me, it was just about the worst film I've ever seen in my entire life.
What was it called?
It was called Half Brothers. 0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Zero chance I watched that movie ever.
And also, it was week 0 this week. You like that transition? Yeah. That was a transition, wasn't it? My gosh.
You can talk shit all you want about week 0 and the name, yeah. I don't like the name either, but we sat our asses on the couch and watched all of Illinois and Nebraska. I didn't change the channel, and I'm pretty sure most people didn't either.
I wanted to change the channel though. If we're being honest, I know there was nothing else, but
if that game is played mid-season, nobody watches it. Nobody watches it. But it was week 0. We're starved for college football. It was on TV, so we watched it.
What was it 9-9 after the first quarter?
That was late in the second.
Late in the second quarter. It's Big Ten football. It is back. Big Ten football is back, and it's here to stay. But anyways, I have to go here because I thought Scott Frost would be a good coach at Nebraska.
Yeah,
and I thought it would
What
work
the hell
out.
is going? What happened? You played against him at UCF.
I played against his teams. They were well coached. They seemed to care, have belief in each other. They definitely played situational football well. They didn't miss extra points. They didn't catch the ball inside their own 1, like you'll see here, and then try to throw the ball out in an effort not to get the safety. So they didn't do that when I saw them play at UCF, but they do it at Nebraska now, and it's been like this his whole time. He's now 12-21 as the head coach.
He's 12-21 as the head coach. And in one-score games, he's 5-13.
It's a nightmare.
I thought it was going to work.
It's a nightmare.
I thought it was going to work because, as you said, his teams at UCF are everything that his teams at Nebraska aren't. Situationally, I can't imagine there's a worse team in college football than Nebraska under Scott Frost. When you watch them, you know that in big moments, they're going to have a self-destructive play.
Yep.
You just know it's coming. Mm-hmm. And in the first half, they're up 9-2. Brandon Peters gets knocked out of the game for Illinois. Art Sitkowski comes into the game, who is a transfer from Rutgers, who was not good enough to play at
Let that sink in that he couldn't play at Rutgers.
Could not play at Rutgers.
My gosh.
And Illinois has the football 3rd down in their own territory, and a roughing the passer call extends the drive. Illinois goes down and scores. So for those keeping track at home, at that point the game's tied at 9, and the only way that Illinois has scored is on a safety in which Nebraska fielded the punt on their goal line and then kneeled in the end zone.
They tried to throw the ball
and then a drive extended by a roughing the passer call, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. They missed 2 extra points. Late in the game, they forgot what down it was. A quarterback sneaked it on first down. Late in the game. And Scott Frost said after the game, it's the same movie over and over again.
Right.
And it's inexplicable, but here they are.
Do they even practice at all?
Yeah, that's
situational football. Like, do they even like begin to work on that during practice? Because if you're basing it off what we've seen for 3 years, they haven't. They just haven't worked on it. Because like discipline, when you hear discipline on a team, you think 15-yard penalties, you think personal fouls, you think guys throwing punches. With them, it's catching the ball inside their own one. It's holding a little bit sometimes in certain situations. It's missing extra points. It's not doing the little things, right? So I wanted to give Scott Frost a chance, but it's his last year, and will he get through the year? That's my question.
I don't know, but right now,
think about also the violations he has with the NCAA.
Yeah, and Trev Alberts is the new athletic director, was just hired, and you know that it's very important for a new athletic director to have their guy as the head coach, and they were going to try to make this work with Scott Frost, but at this point, once again, an early season loss that everybody had marked as a win, and now he thinks they can have a special season still. How? I mean,
the belief in the locker room.
It's over because
is at an all-time low.
Before it starts.
It's the belief in the locker room is not there anymore. There's no way. You cannot lose a game like that in the Big Ten. And to think about also when Nebraska joined the conference, to think about it, did anyone ever think they'd be this low at this point?
No, they're at a low, an all-time low, and it has shown that it can go lower. That's the problem. Yesterday, the amount of times that if you're Brett Bielema, you just kind of sat there and said, no, we're going to run the ball, we're going to manage the game, and we're going to let you self-destruct if you're Nebraska. And it worked every time.
Illinois didn't really play that good of a game. Like, they didn't play that well. That's the thing that gets me.
Illinois is not a good football team.
And they didn't play overly well. They made mistakes too. You know, like, it's just I also can't get over when Scott Frost got there, the conversations that were had about Adrian Martinez. Well, he's like Marcus Mariota was in college. He can run the ball. He can pass the ball. He's good from the pocket. No, he's not. He's not. He doesn't have any type of poise. He's been there for 4 years now. 3 years with Scott Frost. Scott Frost has taken him under his wing, and it has not gotten better.
No. He was, in fact, you can make an argument that there's been regression.
No.
He had a very good freshman season when he was healthy. But the problem is from the pocket and when he's under duress, the accuracy is just nowhere to be found. And no, their problem is their problems are on the offensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. You're expecting Scott Frost offenses to take off, and they're not getting better. They're getting worse
every year. And the discipline is gotten worse too. But I think he's out by the end of the year, but we'll have to see what Trev Alberts does with that. Now on to Justin Fields. Justin Fields went out last week of preseason, threw for a heck of an exclamation point to his final pass in the preseason. Just unbelievably placed to his tight end, and I thought it was a very, very unbelievable sort of intro into what we'll see when he actually takes the reins of the starting offense, but he's not going to do that until Matt Nagy decides.
I got a question.
That is necessary.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Why? Has anybody asked, like, does anybody else want to ask that question? I know somebody else out there is curious. Bears fans, like, I get it. There are people out there that are clamoring for Justin Fields to be the starter. But I still keep hearing, by and large, people carrying Matt Nagy's water and saying that Andy Dalton absolutely should be the starting quarterback in week 1. I was listening to Willie McGinnis and Kurt Warner on the NFL Network, and they asked the question, who should be the starting quarterback? Should it be Andy Dalton or Justin Fields? They both said Andy Dalton. And, well, there's strike one. Kurt Warner comes out and says that Andy Dalton's the better quarterback, which is utter gaslighting. I love Kurt, and I'm not trying to knock him, but that is insulting your viewers' intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anybody with two eyes, sometimes people in the media, from the viewers and the listeners, the consumers, they get criticized for trying to act like they're way smarter than the average person out there. That's insulting people's intelligence. Anybody with two eyes can see who's the better quarterback. That's number one. Then Willie McGinnis comes out and says, no, I don't want him starting because of Aaron Donald in week one. And there's the other one I've heard, and I
can't lie.
I get it.
I got to say, I think there's some value to that point.
Yes, I get it. Like, you don't want to get your quarterback hurt. We saw what happened to Joe Burrow last year, and you put him behind a bad offensive line. That's a concern. But who gives you the best chance to win in that situation with a bad offensive line? Andy Dalton with no mobility whatsoever, or Justin Fields?
Justin Fields does. And I guess the argument for the Cleveland game and the Rams game would be, are they going to win anyway, even if they do have Justin Fields in there? But regardless, he needs to be the starter. He needs to be the starter for the Bears. I mean, the fact that people are really trying to say Andy Dalton's a better quarterback, or like, in what world? If you watch preseason games, even Andy Dalton got some time. Andy Dalton didn't look near as good. Justin Fields, behind the worst O-line in the NFL. I'll say bottom five to be fair, I guess. Bottom five, although I think it's the worst O-line in the NFL. Behind that line, he made no real big mistakes this preseason. 30 for 49, 276 pass yards, 92 rush yards, 3 TDs, 0 interceptions. Got smacked in the mouth one time. I think he might have had a fumble. I don't know if he lost it. But he, for the most part in the preseason, played mistakeless football behind the worst O-line in the NFL. And I can't understand why Andy Dalton is being touted as a guy who could win ball games for the Bears. I understand what he did with the Bengals. It was a while ago, but I understand that.
That was 6 years ago.
He had A.J. Green. A.J. Green did a lot in his prime. Andy Dalton last year with, to be honest with you, one of the best receiving corps in the NFL, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, did nothing. Nothing of value. So I think the Justin Fields move needs to be made now. I do see the Willie McGinnis point, though. I don't want him to go out there and get hurt at the hands of Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett if you could prevent it.
So let Andy Dalton go out there and get hurt at the hands of Aaron Donald and lose the game?
That's not what I said.
Fair.
That is not what I said, man. But we'll see what happens with that. I over under week 3.
I'll say it happens in week 2 because this all stems back to Matt Nagy promising Andy Dalton the starting job before he knew that he was going to have a shot at Justin Fields. So it's this promise that he's making that I guess he doesn't want to break. Mm-hmm. To me, that is like keeping him. That's the only.
How could you promise
justification?
Dude, could you imagine? Your quarterback situation's been so bad that you're like, Andy, you're gonna come in here. You're gonna be the ultimate. You're our guy. You're the guy next year. You're gonna lead us to a playoff berth in a Super Bowl. Hell no. How could you promise a guy? Like, I can understand promising Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, some of the premier names in the NFL.
Like even Teddy Bridgewater.
I promise you, Andy Dalton, that you're going to be our starter this year. My God, that just shows you how bad it's been.
It's been bad.
It's going to lead, and it may not. It may turn around for them once they start playing Justin Fields, but this quarterback position is going to lead Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace to – it's going to cost them their jobs in the end, and I truly believe that, and it's been that way for a while. All right. Elsewhere in Chicago, Donda dropped. Are you a Kanye guy? Just be honest.
No, not really.
Did you used to be?
Way back in the day, like maybe my college years. So it's
like when he dropped.
God, I'm gonna sound old. I'm gonna sound old.
You know you won't.
It's been about a decade, man.
A decade.
It's been about a decade.
A decade.
It's been a solid decade.
This is when he dropped like Homecoming.
Before he became
Homecoming.
Gigantic grifter. That's when I liked him. Yeah, like Homecoming for sure. Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean dude. Here's the thing. He's tremendously talented. He is. I like his music for the most part, but the human being has become so just a walking confliction. First of all, Donda is his mother's name. So he named the album after his late mother. And yet he has a album listening show in the middle of Soldier Field and invites Marilyn Manson and DaBaby on the stage with him to announce the album that he is dedicated to his mother. You invite a serial rapist and you invite a very serious homophobe. And you're trying to release an album to dedicate to your mother. I don't get that. But all I know is I've seen Twitter today and I'm annoyed already. The analytical essays are coming, Alex, where they talk about why this is the best album ever and why Kanye is just so lyrically. He's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
He's a genius. Even though he invited a serial rapist and a homophobe to his album.
Welcome to 2021.
Yeah. And then there's Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul, and we'll talk about that. I'll release a video later on that.
Here, I'll sum up both. You ready?
Yeah.
Grifters are gonna grift.
Grifters do grift.
Grifters will grift.
That is indeed.
And part of the grift is getting people to grift for them.
That's what they do. Yeah. They make money off their grift and they continue to push it. And part of me says
because they're like, yes, I want more of that grift.
Yes. And part of me says, I mean, if it's making you money and it makes you happy, go ahead. But something tells me like the way Kanye's been acting, going through all these situations with Kim, having to go through the breakup, it doesn't seem like a very happy situation. But that'll do it for the Monday Conversation. Follow us. We added our YouTube channel. We added our Facebook. Make sure you follow us, like, subscribe, do the whole 9 yards, and we will be bringing this to you every Monday. Check in later in the week. We will have our Week 1 college football picks, as well as some more content. We'll have a preview on Memphis, a preview on Iowa coming this week.